internship opportunities with ConocoPhillips, who's a great community partner of not only BHS, but our entire school district here with Bartlesville Public Schools. We will also have a panel of our current interns. We have 7 interns with ConocoPhillips this year, all BHS seniors. We have 4, I believe, here today. Peckel's over there. So they will talk about their experience. We will open up the floor to your guys' questions, because this is the time to ask all those questions while we have your peers here who are going and living through that experience that you're hoping to get, and to ask questions of Mr. De La Rosa. And then we'll just kind of talk about the experience and the next steps for you guys as you submit your applications and go through that initial on-campus interview with me before you get referred to Mr. De La Rosa. So let's go ahead and turn it over to Mr. De La Rosa, and we will get started as people just go ahead and come in. So, Alex.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. How are y'all doing? Everybody doing well?
I got donuts, of course I am.
Say again, you got donuts? You're good? Well, that's good. At least I hit one checkbox, right? My name is Alex De La Rosa, as you mentioned. I work at ConocoPhillips. I've been with ConocoPhillips going on 12 years. I've been in IT for over 30 years. So I know a lot about IT. I'm not going to say I know everything about IT, because in my opinion, anybody that says that is lying to you. IT is one of those fields that is so broad. Oh, I'm not on. See, I'm not used to this stuff. Can you hear me now? IT is one of those fields like finance, for example, that is just so broad that for someone to say they know everything about a field like that is so broad, it's ludicrous. Always got something to learn. Still learning, 30 plus years later. So you guys are high school juniors at the moment, right? Okay, excited for your senior year? Yes, that didn't sound very exciting. Okay, very good. How many of you have participated in some kind of a competition, whether it's a sports, band, drama, some kind of competition, right? Shout out what the goal of participating in a competition is. To win, right? So it's competition, right? There's a winner, and then there's everybody else, right? Nothing wrong with being second or third or fourth, but the goal is to win, right? I'm here to tell you that if your parents or your family hasn't told you yet, as soon as you leave high school, the real competition starts. Everything you're going to be involved in, you're going to want to do, is a competition. You're going to compete for internships like this one. You're going to compete for jobs. You're going to compete for salary. You're going to compete for all kinds of stuff, right? So it's a competition. So then you got to figure out, okay, if I'm in this competition, what do I got to do to prepare myself to win, right? That make sense? That's what this presentation is for. I'm here to give you a resource to help you win in the competition called finding a career. Okay? Now, some of you have thought about careers, some of you haven't, and that's okay. When I was your age, I was thinking about girls and going to the lake. That's it, right? I was not thinking about competition. But how many of you are familiar with ConocoPhillips? Okay? Real quick, who can tell me what ConocoPhillips does? Oil and gas, okay? So do we drill for oil and gas in Bartlesville? No, we don't. But wait a minute, Bartlesville is one of our largest sites in 17 countries. So what do we do in Bartlesville? Anybody?
There's a research facility, I think.
We do not. That's Phillips 66, has the research facility. And we'll get into why that's different in a little bit.
Do you sell it?
We sell raw product, oil and gas, yes. Other ideas?
Transportation and distribution?
Transportation and distribution, supply chain. Yes, our global supply chain is represented here in Bartlesville. Other ideas?
Hiring.
Hiring, our global HR here in Bartlesville. Other ideas? What's the one thing everybody wants when they get a job?
Money.
Money. They stop paying me, I stop showing up, right? Everybody wants to get paid? Finance, right? Our global finance organization is right here in Bartlesville. So for a company that's in 17 countries, we've got over 30,000 people working for us, whether they're employees or contractors or interns. All the global support functions, HR, finance, IT, cybersecurity, are represented in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Why is that a good thing? Anybody?
It's all centralized.
Centralized. Because it's represented in Bartlesville, you have hiring managers that are in Bartlesville, right? You're going to hear from some folks later on today that currently, as a high school senior, have the opportunity to get in front of a hiring manager in a global organization, let that hiring manager know who they are, what they're interested in, what I'm good at. You think that's going to help them later on if they choose to apply for an employee role at ConocoPhillips? It's going to help, right? So one thing I'll tell you is when I started this program 8 years ago, right now, this spring, I will probably get 200 to 250 resumes from students just like yourself looking for an opportunity in this internship program. How many roles do you think I have to fill? Say again?
A lot.
What's a lot? Define that. Give me a number. Anybody? 25 was my highest year. That was last year. This year I only have 14. Think about that. 250 people vying for 14 roles. Or 20 roles. Let's say I end up with 20 roles. It's a competition. So how do you get selected to participate in this program when it's a competition? Anybody?
Stand out.
Stand out. How many of you have heard of first impressions? What have you?
Make it good. They matter.
Make it good, they matter. Say again? Make a difference. What is a first impression? Anybody? Advertisement. What is it?
What somebody thinks about you when they first see you.
Somebody thinks about you when they first see you. Studies say that you got 5 seconds to make your first impression. 5 seconds. Which means every single one of you have already made your first impression on me. Doesn't mean you can't change your first impression, because the more I get to know you, that first impression could improve or it can be degraded, right? But you've made your first impression. Also means that I've made my first impression on you. Does that make sense? Why are first impressions important?
So nobody's gonna hire you if you're like not serious.
Okay, nobody's going to hire you if you're not serious, but how do they know if you're serious?
First impression.
First impressions. Let me give you an example. I was hiring for a position a few years ago. I think it paid $80,000 a year. I was interviewing probably 10 people. These are professional positions. And I had a gentleman show up in khakis and a shirt. Nothing wrong with that. Looked nice. But every stitch of clothing on that shirt looked like it hadn't been ironed. Looked like he'd slept in it for weeks. I was going to let it pass, no worries. I don't know the background. He shows up. I offer him a seat. He sits down and he literally does this the entire interview. What do you think that told me? Told me he might be lazy. What else? Closed-minded, maybe?
Not serious at all.
Not serious, right? Were all those things true? Maybe, maybe not. But based on the first impression, there was a risk that maybe they were true. You think he got the job? No. Fully qualified on paper. But do I want to put that in front of my customers? No. So your first impressions matter. Does that make sense? Questions on that? That is a nugget, a life lesson moving forward. It does have implications in this program, but okay, let's try this again. do you think you're gonna do in an internship? Anybody? What have you heard about internships and what do you do? Yes?
Learn from people that are teaching you.
Learn, okay? Be teachable,
I was gonna say the same.
okay?
Training courses?
Training courses possibly, yeah. Other ideas? When I started this program, I asked that question of a lot of people that had participated or were interested in internship. And one of the prominent things I heard is get coffee and make copies. While you might make some copies in this internship, that is not the intent of the program. We want you to be doing real work that our organization is going to have done regardless of whether you were there or not. We want you to understand why that work is important, how it impacts the business, why we are having you do that work. Does that make sense? Having you get coffee and make copies, in my opinion, is not an internship. And that's not how I built this program. So it's meaningful work. We want you to learn something that you can take with you when you leave. Participation in the program can be a pathway to a ConocoPhillips internship. Why do I say can be? Why is it not guaranteed? Say again? It's competitive. So what could ruin your chances?
Not standing out.
Say again?
Not standing out.
Not standing out? Is that what you said? Okay.
Not putting in the work.
Not putting in the work.
Lack of professionalism.
Lack of professionalism. All those things that are common sense, right? Show up when you're supposed to be there. Stay until it's time to go. Do the work you're supposed to be doing. Ask questions if you have them, right? Does that make sense? That common sense stuff? Stuff you've done throughout your career in high school, right? Do your work. Turn it in on time. Okay? That's common sense stuff. Those are the things that are going to make you eligible for potentially a college internship program. Okay? Networking, talking to people, getting to know people. I will give you every opportunity there is to meet anybody in the organization you want to meet. If you plan to go to college and you want to talk to the recruiters, we'll make that happen. Go talk to the recruiters as a high school senior, right? Do you think that if the recruiters know your name, know your face, know what you're interested in, have already had conversations with you, and then you show up at a recruiting event, you think that's going to be a leg up for you?
Yes.
Yes.
They already know you, right? It's a leg up. But the ball is in your court. I can't do it for you. You have to do it. Does that make sense? Okay. Everybody, all the participants in this program are high school seniors from private, public, and homeschool organizations. I keep the faculty, the school, involved in the program. Why would I do that? Anybody?
They know us better.
They know you better. I don't know you from Adam. I know a couple of people here. I know the interns that I already have on staff. But the rest of you, I don't know you from Adam, right? I don't know what kind of work you do. I don't know what your attendance is like. I don't know what your attitude is like outside of what I just learned, right? They know you. Guess what? They can see your scores too. And I will highlight that if they call me and say, hey, you have an intern and their scores are dropping, and we believe it could be because they're not focusing on their education and are focusing more on the internship program. Guess what I'm going to do? You're out. Focus on school. School is priority. Does that make sense? That is a personal item for me. I think your education is far more important than this internship, even though I'm the one that started it. So if I hear from your school that your grades are slipping and they believe it could be because you're focusing on the internship more than school, I will remove you from the program. Not them. I will remove you from the program. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. I will say also that this is not a grade point average program. I'm not just looking for 4.0 students, right? But I don't want the 1.0s either, because what does that tell me?
Lack of effort.
You're not putting in the work, you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to be taught, right? You don't have to be a 4.0, but if your grades are not what they need to be, I would highly suggest you work with your school staff and do something about that if you want to participate in this program. Okay? That make sense? Everybody clear on that? Okay? School is important. Time commitment. We want to be as flexible as we can. We understand, we've all been there. Sometimes you forget a test is coming up. Sometimes you forget that paper was due, whatever, right? It happens. You got an event to go to, a school event. It happens. We only ask that you let us know. Communication is going to be the most important factor that you have in this program. Communicate, communicate, communicate. If you get selected for this program, I'm going to tell you that it's your responsibility to talk with your management and find out how they want you to notify them if you can't be at work. Okay? Because if you don't show up and they expect you to show up, one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to call me and say, hey, have you heard from so-and-so? They're supposed to be here today. I'm going to say, nope, I haven't. Let me call the school. I'll call the school and say, hey, have you seen so-and-so? They're supposed to be at work today, but they're not. If they say no, my next phone call is the police department. Because I don't want you wrapped around a tree out there, okay? Especially in this kind of weather, right? If you're not going to be here and you know it, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to be looking for you. That make sense? If you have a problem with that, don't sign up for the program. It's that simple. There's plenty of other people willing to do it. Okay? Questions? No questions. Okay. Could turn into a summer job opportunity. Why do I say could? Not guaranteed. Why is it not guaranteed? You got to earn it. If you come into the program and you're just kind of halfway there, you're not really paying attention, your work's sometimes late, it's not really great work, it's subpar, why would I invite you back when I got a whole ton of other folks willing to do better work? Right? Remember, it's a competition. You are competing not just to get into the program, but you're also competing to stay in the program. Make sense? If you have a problem in this program, ask questions. Talk to somebody. Right? Talk to me. Call me. Come see me. I'm available. Don't just let it go. Because if you just let it go, it will turn into something that won't be good for you. Okay? Questions? Okay. We want to do at least 10 hours a week. That is a minimum, not a maximum. That is not a number that I come up with. That is the number that the state holds the school accountable for in internship programs so that they can, if they choose, grant you graduation credit for participating in the program. Okay? I don't care if you work 20 hours a week if you're available, as long as your grades don't slip. That make sense? Questions about that? That is a minimum, not a maximum. Okay. Participating functions. These are the high-level functions that we have currently participating in the internship program. Within those functions, there's a bunch of different groups. So, for example, finance, I mentioned how broad finance is. There's a bunch of different groups in finance. Technology, IT, a lot of different groups in IT. Probably more groups in IT participating only because that's kind of where I live, right? I have more influence on the IT folks than I do a finance person that I don't even know. Okay, make sense? We'll talk a little bit more detail if we have time later on some of the teams. I said it was a competition. There's your competition. See those schools? It's a bunch of them. I will do this presentation to every one of those schools in the next few months. That's your competition. Okay? Process timeline. This is what you want to pay attention to. Information sessions we're doing right now. The second one, candidate resumes are due to ConocoPhillips by 1 March. That does not mean you turn them into your counselor by 1 March, right? They are going to give you a date when they want you to get the resumes to them. That date is probably gonna give them some time to review your resume and work with you to make it better if necessary. Okay? You think it would make sense to get help from somebody that's actually written a resume and been successful in that, in writing your resume? Right? What's the goal of a resume? Anybody?
Convince people to let you in,
Convince people to let you in, okay?
to show potential employers your skills and certifications.
Okay, show your skills and certifications.
Stand out.
Stand out,
To
okay?
convey information on yourself in a convenient and presentable way.
Okay, very good.
Share your skills and qualifications.
Skills and qualifications, okay? I'm gonna simplify it for you all. Your resume has one goal. That goal is to get an interview. Your resume has to be good enough to get you an interview. Because without the interview, you don't go any further. Right? You're all in the same grade, you're all relatively the same age, you've all done relatively the same stuff, but I guarantee you, you're different. I guarantee you, some of you have different aspirations. You've done different leadership roles in different clubs or teams. You've done things different, right? On your resume, if your resume looks just like the other 200 resumes, how do I pick which one to interview? I'm not going to interview 200 people. I'm only going to interview 30 or 40. Your resume has to tell me something about you and what makes you different and unique from the other 200 people that are applying. If you make your resume just like everybody else's, it's going to go in the big pile. Okay? Ball's in your court. This is a competition. If you want to participate, you've got to compete. The first step in that is the resume. Does that make sense? Questions? Okay. After we get the resumes done, I will go through and figure out who I'm going to interview. We'll set up on-site screening, which is going to be a 30-minute interview at ConocoPhillips. Yes?
Do you take cover letters, sir?
I will take what you send me. Now, I will say that one time I was hiring for a position and I got a 10-page resume. Where do you think that resume went? Absolutely. I don't have time to read 10 pages. I got 250 resumes to go through and then make a decision. One piece of paper, one page, maybe front and back if you choose, but one page. It doesn't need to give me 10 pages, especially you guys are in juniors in high school, right? You don't have 10 pages of history, right? That makes sense? Studies say, some of the HR folks can probably check me on this, but studies say you got about 10 seconds to capture someone's attention in reading a resume. If you haven't captured their attention in 10 seconds, they're done and moving on to something else. Which means the important stuff should be at the top, right? Don't leave the important stuff for the end, because they'll never get to it. Okay? Questions? On-site screening. How many of you have been in an interview before? Okay, some of you. Give me a number. How many people were in that interview with you? One? Two, three? Two? Okay. These interviews, you're going to talk maybe 10, 15 people. Some of them will be remote from Houston. Some of them will be in the room. I will have you in the room. Okay? They will all have questions for you. I highly recommend you have questions for them because it's a two-way interview. You're trying to figure out which one you want to work with, what group you choose or want to choose to be in. They're trying to figure out if you're good for their team. Okay? It's a two-way interview. Ask questions. Come prepared. My goal is to have all the selected candidates ready to start by the end of May. Hopefully before you head off for summer vacation. Okay? That way, if the group that selects you wants you to start working in the summer, before your senior year, they can choose to do that. Does that make sense? One of the questions during the interview is going to be, what's your availability? When are you available? Well, if you're going to be gone all summer, out of the country, make sure you let them know that. so that if they select you and you say, okay, but I can't start until August, they're not scratching their heads saying, but you told me you were available. Okay? Because that's a red flag. That make sense? Okay. Questions about any of that? Am I running out of time? I'm going to ask that they share this slide deck with you so you can read these. These are hard to read. But just to highlight, the first two ladies in the top left-hand corner were the first two high school students from Bartlesville High School that I started with 8 years ago. It's just a story about them, and then a couple of the other interns throughout the program. These are just some numbers on the college internship program and what college students have said about our internship program. Feel free to take a look at some of that. And then here's a couple of videos. This video is college intern programs. These are college interns talking about their internship, what they did, what they were asked to do, their experience, that kind of stuff, right? This video was created by some of the Bartlesville High School students that were interning in that year. They created a very similar video about their experience in the internship program, what are the things that they had them do, etc. Feel free to take some time to read through that or watch those videos. I want to highlight something that I've mentioned over and over, but I want to go back to it. College internship program. Why do you think I keep talking about the college internship program? Why is it important?
College is not too far away, it's only a school year away, however long we decide to take off during our.
Right. Let me ask this question. How many of you think you might want to come back to work for Phillips in Bartlesville? Or within the organization? Okay, a few of you? 80 to 90% of our new hire program comes directly out of the college internship program. So if you think you want to come back to work for Phillips, another leg up in the process is to get in that internship program. Right? If you participate in the high school internship program, what do you think your chances are of getting in the college internship program if you take advantage of all the networking opportunities? Leg up, right? It's a competition. That make sense? Questions? Yes?
If we're not college bound, could we still have a job opportunity?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There are opportunities at Phillips that do not require university or college degrees. Yes, absolutely. Plenty of them. And you can make a great career and make some great money without going to college. It's not a requirement. Now, I will say it's easier if you do go get that piece of paper to make the money that you may want to make. But it's definitely doable without. It's just a little bit harder. Okay? Other questions? Okay. I think, yes, that is all I have. Man, long time. Panel, come take your place.
Awesome, let's go guys. Hey, round of applause for Mr. Thaler, roasted with condiment.
Okay, wait, Carter is getting that to pull up. We'll talk about next steps after we get through this panel and the Q&A session. So we'll talk about the hard deadlines that we have for us here at BHS so that we can meet the next steps with Alex and with ConocoPhillips to make sure you set yourself up to be considered for these invaluable opportunities with COP. So today, We had a nice slide with professional photos for like 4 out of 7 of you. So I feel bad we don't have it up right now. But we have 6 out of 7 of our high school senior interns that we have at Phillips here with us today. So I'm going to hand the mic over to them and let them introduce themselves and introduce yourself and say what department you serve within.
I'm Jonathan Bechtel, and I'm part of the site support team at CSU.
Seniors are on the way to second hour. They may be just a little bit late. Repeat, seniors are on the way to second hour.
You got it, Timber.
My name is Timber McCall, and I'm in the HR Contingent Workforce Program at Phillips.
My name is Alex Ortiz, and I'm in the Application Development Program.
My name is Emma Howes, and I'm in the IT Data Visualization.
My name is Reagan Patskowski, and I'm in the IT Security Group.
My name is Lily Talbot, and I work in the Automation Development Group.
Awesome.
We're just passing like back and forth, but we're coming fresh off Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we were probably used to passing food around our family table this holiday break. And that was one of the questions I asked them, because we, as part of our internship program, and I see Lauren and Nevaeh smiling over there, we do have one-on-ones with your kids, where they meet with me about once every 2 months, so about twice a semester, and we talk about their performance, where do they think their growth is at, what they need to work on, have they identified a mentor, specifically, at Phillips, right? And then we just make sure we touch base, because I will say, having gone to school here, and I know Mr. Basins is here, the schedule is so much different for kids now than when we were here, right? And so you still need that sense of community and have that continuity with your group. So we make sure we try to provide that, because most of these kids you're looking at, these are top 5% of their class. They're not here all the time for physical classes, right? They can still take concurrent classes. Raise your hand if you're taking concurrent classes. See, I mean, most of them, and I know the 7th is not here, or Eli. And how many of you guys take part in an activity? So we got a lot of swimmers up here, pom, and then we got soccer. So they're still able to have, and then also what about AP? How many of you guys are taking AP classes? So again, you can still do all of the things and still have an internship and be successful academically, and also within your sport and activity, and still have the great opportunity like Mr. De La Rosa was talking about with Phillips. So I want to give this question to the panel. Why is the reason that you applied to the Phillips internship in the first place last year? Who wants to start? Yeah.
So honestly, I wasn't like, I really want to work there, but I did not want to fill my class schedule up with a bunch of filler classes that I would just kind of sit there and just be like, okay, get an A and get through them. And this was a really great opportunity to like try something new and get paid hours to go to school. And I was like, I really want to try this, and so that's why I applied.
I have had older siblings that did different internships, and so I've known about the ConocoPhillips internship for a while, and I kind of always knew it was something I really wanted to try out for. And I've also always kind of known what I wanted to major in, and I knew that there would be groups and opportunities at ConocoPhillips that could set me up or prepare me for what I wanted to major in, and help me see if, is this really what I want to commit to,
So the reason that I did it, similar to Reagan, I didn't want to fill up my class or my schedule with a bunch of random blow-off classes, and I also wanted to see if IT was a field I was planning to go into for a career, and so I got an internship with IT. I have since changed my major more towards engineering. I'm focusing on that, I think, but I'm very grateful for the experience, and it's been great to work with a professional environment like Phillips.
I wanted to learn applying for jobs and interviewing, and I also didn't want to fill up my class with just a bunch of classes I didn't really need.
I did it to just gain more professional experience and get out there more, because I'm pretty shy and I needed to get out there and talk to people and communicate.
say a big reason I went was for the networking advantage and just being able to put myself out there and get my name out in the professional world early on and just get a good experience, you know, to kind of set you up for the future. So.
Awesome. So what is one thing you wish you would have known prior to your internship at Phillips, right? That would have made you a little bit more prepared maybe for the application process and selection process, or along the same lines of what it was going to be like on your day-to-day experience as an intern within your specific department.
I can go first. Or,
I would say one thing I wish I knew going in would be like go in with an open mind. Don't go into this internship thinking this is a group I want to work in, this is a department. Like don't be set in stone where you want to be. Keep an open mind and just be flexible.
I wish I, kind of like Jonathan said, I wish I had gone in with like more of an open mind, because I remember really freaking out before my interview. Like I think when I was in the elevator with Mr. De La Rosa, I was like trying not to shake while I was talking. But it's a really good experience to have, and I'm really like thankful and glad that I went through it. And when I first met my group, I was so I was so nervous and scared about making a good impression and acting professional, but they make it really easy to, you know, learn everything, because I went in with zero experience in the field, and I have learned so much because they make it really easy to, you know, follow, or, you know, they're a lot more open than you feel like they're gonna be. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've like kind of interrupted someone in a meeting to ask them to like clarify something, and I thought that they would be like mad for some reason, but they're really like helpful when it comes to like even the college interns, because they know we don't know nearly as much as they do. So
So for me, when you go in, there's to some degree feeling that you're gonna be alone and you're gonna have to figure it out, and that's not the case. There's gonna be a lot of people that ask questions, like Lily said, but there's also a chance. I got really lucky because on my team there was a new hire who she had just come out of college, and she was new, but she knew a lot more than me, and I was able to partner with her on a lot of different projects, and that has helped me learn tremendously as compared to what I thought would be. I got like a month or two of training and then thrown into the deep end with nothing else.
I think just don't be afraid to ask questions, because I know Mr. De La Rosa kept telling me like, do you have any questions? And I'm like, no. And I definitely did, but I was just too scared to ask.
We're gonna talk.
I feel like as I got more comfortable, I definitely asked more questions, but I should have sooner, I think, to get more of a ground.
I would say for me, something that's different than school is you're gonna have to do a lot more things independently. Like sometimes my supervisor will give me an assignment and then she'll tell me to just look up videos on how to do it, because she doesn't have the time to like actually teach me how to do everything, and so I'm gonna have to learn how to do some things on my own.
Yeah, I think it's a very different like workload. It's not like school where they like assign you stuff constantly, because they're also working. So some weeks I'll show up and I'll talk to her and she goes, yeah, so just kind of go through training. And so I log on and I look at training for like an hour and I'm like, I can't do this for the whole time or all week. So you kind of have to communicate and then figure out what you can work on, which is something, it's a learning curve, because I'll go into the meetings with Mr. Tucker, I'm like, I didn't do anything. I feel like I'm not doing my like internship, but that's kind of what it's like. It's a different workload and you got to get used to it and communicate with your group to make sure you're like doing the right stuff.
And that's a great point, right, Reagan? We've talked about, you know, there's gonna be points where you're super engaged, super involved, right? You're contributing to a major project, and that's the case for any intern that we have throughout our 43 partners that we have in our community, right? There are times where you're contributing to something that you get to be proud of, you get to present in front of maybe higher ups, right? Maybe it's more visibility, like a community project, like we have some people with the city of Bartlesville, interns with the city of Bartlesville, but it's about that access. It's access, knowledge, and mentorship. Those are the three key components of our program here at BPS. And you guys are getting access, right? And that's what you're all are talking about, like getting visibility to that professional workplace. You're getting knowledge to what it's like to work within those specific fields, within those departments. And you're getting invaluable mentorship, right? Through people within, and I know this from our one-on-ones with all of you, from specific people or multiple people within your group, right? And that's gonna guide you along the way. So, with that being said, what is the most impactful skill or lesson you think you've learned throughout your internship so far?
Well, I email people like every single day, so I've gotten really good at emailing and using Excel spreadsheets. That's most useful.
I've gotten really good at like problem solving so in my department we do a lot of recently at least we've been doing a lot of updating to apps that the company uses, and I've gotten really good at looking through the code and being like, okay, I think that's a problem, and I still have to go and ask, hey, am I right? Is this actually something that's wrong? But when I do that, and that's something that I feel like I've learned how to do, and also communication. You have to just go out there and say, hey, what are you doing and can I help? Because otherwise you're not gonna have much to do.
I would say communication with my supervisor, and then like just asking for assignments and stuff, which sometimes I was scared to do, but I mean, it helps.
The most impactful thing I've learned is probably getting out there and asking questions, like everyone said. Because I remember walking with Mr. De La Rosa, I was just constantly asking questions because I just don't want it to be quiet while we walk around. And I was like, he's like, this is the most questions I've ever gotten. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. But it was a good thing. It's a good thing to ask questions and kind of know what you're going into. And I think I've learned a lot from doing that, because I remember I was learning how to run a campaign for fishing. And I sat there and I asked all these questions, and the guy goes, I never thought to ask those questions. And I was like, well, I really want to know. He goes, this is a great step. And I probably think that's like the most impactful thing I've learned, is just to ask, because they want to answer. They want you to learn, and that's really important to keep in mind when you go into that.
Yeah, I think, like, I know everybody said it, but communication and also, like, networking. My, especially over, like, this summer when we had college interns in my group as well, we would, go out for coffee or something, or meet up with another group and have lunch, and just being able to, like, talk to all of them and make those connections, because sometimes, we'll be in the elevator, I'll be walking to another floor, and I'll see some of these people I met over the summer, and, like, they really do still remember you. Like, there's not that many high school interns walking around, so maybe it makes it a little bit easier, but networking has been, like, a really big thing that I've learned while I've been here.
I'll add on to the networking thing. I'd say it's a big deal. COP is really flexible, so like if you're in a group and you don't necessarily aren't interested in it, they're super flexible, and if there's a group you want to be more part of and you're more interested in that area, that field, then you just you reach out, you talk to your mentor, you talk to them, and then you talk to the group, ask Alex, and just ask around. And like me personally, I got to shadow some cybersecurity people because that's more my interest. But I only got to do that because I reached out and asked. So.
And that's a good point, Beck. You've got to take initiative, right? Especially when you're talking about your life and your career. And then you juniors, right, you're beginning this. Now some of you are super mature, congrats, right? Congrats to your parents as well. You have to take, you have to take control from here on out, right? So this is a great example like Mr. De La Rosa was talking about. You're competing from here on out for this internship, on college applications, for college scholarships. You've got to accept that this is just like when you lace it up and if you play on Friday nights or you play soccer for the Boys and Girls Bruins program, when you step on that field or you step on that court, it's the same thing, the same competitive drive you need to have when you're taking care of your professional life as well, right? It's you versus the other person, right? And you have to be a good team member. It's the same dynamic that comes over within these groups that these kiddos work with. So we are going to open the floor up for questions. You can either ask questions of the panel of your peers or ask questions of Mr. De La Rosa. So we will open the panel for open up
to Q&A for about 10 minutes before we talk about our final next steps for you guys. So who has the first question out there? Go on.
Y'all talked a lot about networking. Have you ever had an experience where someone wasn't willing to help you or teach you anything, and how did you deal with that?
Okay. Somebody?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my group, I have learned like a lot of coding, and I've been doing like tons and tons of training. And I remember this one project that I was assigned, and I was trying to, code something, and it was supposed to be like a half a week long project. But since I was doing it on my own, it ended up taking a little longer, and I couldn't figure some things out. And so naturally, I just asked one of my group mates, but they had a like crash or something big happen, and they'd all been in meetings and none of them were available. And I think that was like the only time I've been told like, sorry, we don't have time, but this needs to be done. So I had that project turned into a 2-week project, and it's like, when it happens, like kind of like Emma said earlier, it teaches you how to be a lot more independent, because when you're at school, if you run into an issue, usually you ask a friend or you ask a teacher. But in Conoco, I can't really ask any of my friends because they're not doing the same stuff, or, and if my mentors aren't available, then you've just got to learn how to figure it out on your own and be self-sufficient.
Awesome. Thank you, Lily. Next question. Yes, Lou?
This is for Mr. De La Rosa. If you go to college outside of Bartlesville, are there still opportunities in college to get internships with ConocoPhillips?
Absolutely. So we have a recruiting team at ConocoPhillips. They are also represented in Bartlesville. If you participate in the program, you'll have access to that team. You'll be able to go talk to that team, meet them, and understand what schools they recruit at, who are the recruiters for those particular schools. If we don't particularly recruit at a school you're interested in, you can have that conversation. How do I get engaged in the program if I'm not attending a school you particularly recruit? So those are conversations that would come out of those relationships and that networking. But yes, absolutely, we have people that we bring on that are not necessarily at a school that we highly recruit from.
And that's a great question, right? And we've seen that, and I think Mr. De La Rosa can talk about it a little bit more in depth, but we've seen the expansion of those internships in college, reaching out beyond just the state institutions, the state universities like OU, OSU, K-State, KU. We've seen our local provider, Rogers State University, get some placement, which I know was really important to Dr. Rice, the president of RSU. So yes, just because you go somewhere that might not be on the main recruitment list for P66 or ConocoPhillips, don't count yourself out, right? That's part of the hustle, right? That's part of the networking you got to do for yourself and take an initiative. Next question.
Hey, my name is Luke Wilson, and real quick, could all the interns tell me what their work is, what they do on a day-to-day basis?
I was wondering if that question was going to come up.
Right now, I'm between projects, but normally what my day looks like is I will message my boss and be like, if I have nothing to do, and be like, hey, is there someone I can work with or something low priority that I can pick up? Because there's always work to do. It's just a matter of whether or not you're able to do it. So the beginning months were a lot of training videos and practices, and it's still a lot of training because you gotta learn as you go. But if I can, I help on low priority projects, or I'll sit in on meetings and just try to pick up what I can.
And Lily, real quick, and I think what you're getting at is, what is IT automation development, right? What is that? What do they do within your group? Maybe stuff you don't get to contribute to, but what is IT automation development?
Auto dev, some of the things that I personally do, the side that I see most is we will have people within the company come to us and be like, hey, there's this process that I'm doing that it's kind of simple. It may not be simple, but it's just eating up too much of our work time. Can you guys build an automation or some code and send it to us so that we can just do a click of a button and robots will do it behind the scene. So I work with that, and there's a lot of other stuff I still don't understand because you don't get access to everything as an intern, obviously, but that's mainly what it looks like.
My group's main goal is like awareness of all the threats out in IT security and on the internet. So I have kind of taken over making the slides that go on the TV that the whole company sees, and I make slides for supervisors who have a presentation they want to give to the group, so I make the slides for them. So a lot of stuff I do is researching and then making the slides and putting the information out there. So I've kind of taken over that chunk of work from my group. And I also get to work on phishing campaigns, which they send out to the company, which is pretty cool. But most of the time, it's kind of training or making slides or just communicating, make sure I have something to do with my mentor.
Reagan,
Yes.
Reagan, fishing would be with a PH, right? So not like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm my group's first high school intern, so they don't really know like what I'm supposed to be doing. So one of the things I've done though is they have like the service desk forms. They had to convert all of those because they were getting rid of the platform they use. So I spent a lot of time converting all of those into emails and then linking them on the SharePoint sites.
So my group does a lot of things similar to what Lily's group does, except we're like usually creating the applications, so that involves a lot of throwing spaghetti at a wall and see if it sticks. Seeing if these people like the changes that you made to the app after they ask for those changes and then they don't like the changes for some reason. That's sometimes a little frustrating, but generally it's a lot of coding something and trying to figure out if that is going to be useful for the people who are asking for it or if it's not, and that involves a lot of communication with those people who don't really know what they want sometimes. So it's a lot of communication and coding.
So my group works with contractors and like hiring and extending. So I typically email suppliers, like assignment managers at suppliers about their contingent workers and if they want them to extend them like 6 months or a year, or if they want a pay increase, I have to email about that, and then I go and put it in the system. And then I have to go and put that in a spreadsheet every time I do it. So every person that needs an extension, I put in the spreadsheet. And yeah, that's typically what I do like every single day.
So my group's kind of weird. We have a lot of different processes within my one group. The main thing I do is when we get tickets, I work them. So there's a bunch of different tickets that come in. There's break fixes, so if somebody's machine's broken or something like that, we fix it, or if we can't fix it, replace it. There's desk setups, so everybody at Phillips as an employee has a desk. We set those up. The other big thing we do is building and wiping laptops every 30 days, I think. Every 30 days we have to wipe all the machines we get in. So that's another big process that I do. And then we have an AV guy, which is, as Reagan talked about the slides, there's TVs everywhere. Phillips, if you've never been there, there's TVs literally everywhere. We do those, we run those, we set those up, we image those. So there's a lot of different things to do in my group, but it's all not hard work, if that makes sense.
We got time for one more question before we talk about next steps for you guys. Do we have one over here? Okay.
This question is for Mr. De La Rosa. Do any of the finance departments hire interns, or is it mostly the IT department and HR?
Yes, we do have interns in finance. There are several groups in finance that have had interns over the years. For this next cycle that you guys would be applying for, I do not yet have a current list of everybody that's going to sponsor an intern, but I'm still working on that. But yes, historically, finance, various groups of finance have sponsored interns.
Thank you. And then once that becomes available, that's definitely something that you will discuss if you make it through, so you got visibility on your options, right? This time around, we did have a lot of people in IT. It's almost like Mr. De La Rosa's background's in IT. It's a little sense of that. There's so many, the future's just so bright within IT, right?
Well, if you think about it, there isn't a career that I can think of that does not use some form of technology. I would venture to say that everybody in this room has a cell phone, either in your pocket, in your bag, somewhere. That's technology. That's IT supported, right? So yeah, I got a plug for IT. So.
Let's give the man a pay raise. That's what we need. That's what we want to get across. So let's talk real quick. Let's give a round of applause for our panelists today. You guys did awesome. You'll just stay up here for a moment. Let's talk about next steps before we wrap up. So step one, we're going to have the application process that will be sent out via Google Forms to everybody in attendance today. You'll get a personal email from me, as well as it will be shared through Canvas and through Remind. And I go through the list. You guys know you get inundated with all these messages, but know that because you attended today, you will automatically get a personal email from me with a link to the Google form. What is going to be on the Google form? Well, it's a lot of the stuff that you filled out today to attend. If you filled out that informational session RSVP, as well as we need 2 letters of recommendation, and what Mr. De La Rosa talked about was a resume, right? So once you submit these 2 items, and we're looking for February 2nd. Okay, so that'll give you some time. If there's some gaps, right, in that resume that needs some improvement, we can work on it. Okay, we can work on it. Just because it's not perfect the first time you submit it doesn't mean you're not going to be considered. Okay, that's why we're starting early. So Mr. De La Rosa talked about March 1st. We're starting almost a month earlier, so that way we can get everybody time to level up and present themselves in the best manner going forward. Now, on-campus interview with myself would start that ensuing week. And it's going to run for 2 weeks, because I can surmise by everybody in this room, and plus the people who are not able to attend, who will catch this great video provided by Bruin TV, shout out, that we're going to have a lot of applicants. Okay, so it's going to take 2 weeks to go through, probably about a 15, 20-minute interview with myself, kind of talk about your future, how do you think this internship is going to benefit your career path, both academically and as a career, right? So, and then we'll go through your resume. If I say, hey, there's some weaknesses, you know, X, Y, Z here. Here's some examples I can provide you to help strengthen it, okay? So that's gonna be, so again, Friday, February 2nd is the deadline to submit that initial application. I'll reach out for an interview between the 2 weeks between Feb 7th and Feb 21st, and then I will send my final recommendations around the 29th, right? It's a leap year for leap year people. It's a leap year, so I'll send it on the 29th over to Mr. De La Rosa, and then that will begin his process starting in March of selecting the recommended candidates for interviews on site with COP. Now, this is very selective. We have 7, right? Eli's not here today, but we have 7 interns. And you guys can just look around the room today and then also consider all of the people that will apply that are not in the room today. So if you do not get selected, it's not the end of the world, right? We still have great partners throughout our community. Like I said, we have about 43 partners that offer for-profit and nonprofit internships. We also have, if you're a Generation 1, meaning that you're going to be the first in your family to go to college to pursue a bachelor's degree. We have dedicated leadership internships in our community with people like Chase Alcott, who owns our Chick-fil-A here in Bartlesville, is dedicated to give Gen 1s that opportunity to get that experience. And so if you're not selected, the General Bruin internship application will be sent via Google Forms to everybody, so all juniors. Some sophomores will be considered. There will be juniors next year, but very small. I think, Lauren, we have, what, 5, I think, out of 70-some kids this year are juniors. You need 2 letters of recommendation and a resume. You guys already have that for if you're going to go ahead and apply for the ConocoPhillips internship. And like I said, we do have additional partners, over 40, Phillips 66, Ascension St. John's. If you're looking to go pre-med, right, you're looking to be in the medical field, either in nursing, be a PA, a nurse, or a doctor, a surgeon, optometrist, ophthalmologist. And then we have legal, right? Luke and I talked about that. We have plenty of opportunities both with our DA, with the Sheriff's Department, with Robinette and King, and we just signed in partnership with Mason Law. So we are actively out there pursuing new partnerships for internship hosts, so we can expand this program to make you guys career ready. So that's part of our district initiative to not only make you college ready, but to give you career readiness skills and experiences from your junior year on. So, with that being said, let's make sure we give a round of applause today for Mr. De La Rosa and Conoco Phillips for being here. Thank you so much.
I want to add one thing, Mr. Tucker, if you don't mind. So I mentioned earlier, we talked a little bit about first impressions, right? And the importance of a first impression. So I'll have you know that there's someone in the room that you're also making a first impression on, who, let me introduce, Miss Bree Hibden. Caught her off guard. She is here, she's representing Phillips 66. So they also have an internship program. I don't know how large it is or how many students they're going to have, but I will hang around for a few minutes if anybody has any additional questions. I presume, Bree, you'll be here if anybody has any additional questions. Round of applause for Mr. Tucker for the work that he's doing today.
Thank you, guys. Real quick, you can stay around and ask some questions. We'll make sure that you don't get targeted, okay? If it shows up in Power School and you get that message from your mom or dad, don't worry, we'll fix it later, okay? I know we got some parents in the back, they're like, yeah, I get those Power School alerts. And it's a lot, I know it's a lot. But I wanna make sure we get a photo outside of everybody that showed up with Mr. De La Rosa today, so we can show the impact that we've had through his program, which you launched the whole program. So we wanna show the impact so that we can share that on social. So again, let's head outside real quick, outside the conference room, and we'll take a photo.